Hey guys, Elle here. I'm back with a review of a truly unique and beautiful tarot deck, and that's the Ship of Fools Tarot by Brian Williams. And Brian Williams, of course, has put out several tarot decks. He's done the Renaissance Tarot, the Pomo Tarot, or the Postmodern Tarot. He's done a Minchiati Tarot. He's like a Renaissance historian, and he actually passed away back in 2002, and that's when this deck came out. This was his last deck, his last work. And I have had this sucker for quite a long time. It's an old deck for me. I was drawn to it as soon as I stumbled across it. I love these decks that just feel old, that feel Renaissance. And the concept behind this deck is utterly fascinating. The name of it, the Ship of Fools, is also the name of the medieval German poem, Ship of Fools, called Das Narrenschiff. It translates to Ship of Fools, by Sebastian Brant. It's an old poem from like 1495, I think, warning against like over 100 follies and vices. And it was fully illustrated with these beautiful woodcut images. So what Brian Williams has done with this deck is he sort of blended traditional tarot images, tarot symbolism from both the Rider-Waite-Smith deck and the Tarot de Marseille, with these old woodcuts, these old images, these old illustrations from this poem. I will put a link below to an English translation of the poem. It's an old translation, so the spellings and stuff are a little funny. It can be a little difficult to read. I think there are other translations out there that you can buy on like Amazon that are a little bit easier to read. But it's a really interesting poem. It's really cool. And one of the other things that I love about this deck is it becomes like a deck of fools, pretty much. It's a wonderful way to look at that journey of the fool, or the fool's journey in tarot, you know, because there's literally almost a fool, an image of the fool on every single card in the deck. So it's really fun. Okay, so let me show you how this guy comes here. You get this ginormous box. I can't even get the whole thing on the screen here. That's what the back looks like. It's a thin sort of a box, but the book and the deck are all inside. You get a meaty book with it. That color looks about right there too. When you look up images of this deck, it almost looks as though all the cards are actually black and white, and they're really not. Can you see that? That's what they look like. They're more of this sort of sepia tone. I'll show you on the cards in a second. And the print almost looks like it's in brown. It's like this beige and brown sort of thing. But there is no color on these cards. Anyway, that was the book. This is the box you get. And then it comes with this guy sort of in there, and there's this little box attached, and your cards come in there. So they're secured in there pretty well, and then this space is sort of left empty. What is that? There's some tips for tearing your tarot cards. Yeah, don't do that. Tips for caring for your tarot cards. Cleanse your deck of negative energy. Oh, Llewellyn, you're so fun. So that is how it comes. I'll show you guys the book. And this, again, it's a nice, meaty book. How many pages are in here? Just over 200. That's the only spread, by the way. There's only one little Celtic cross spread back here. This certainly isn't really a primer to tarot. It doesn't go into a lot of depth with your divinatory meanings. The bulk of the book is devoted to, there's a little intro up here where he talks about Narrenschiff, the poem, but literally on like page 2 here, he jumps right in, and he talks about where he got the images from. So here's like 2 of the woodcuts where the Fool card came from. that were from the poem. And then for almost every card, too, he'll show you the Tarot de Marseille and the Rider-Waite-Smith image. And he'll talk about how he combined the symbolism and why he went for that. And then that little bit right down there, that's your divinatory meanings. It's mostly keywords. I certainly don't disagree with his meanings or anything. They're wonderful. They're just, they're concise. It's short and sweet. But it's a really fun read to get his history and why he did what he did. There you go. There's your magicians, and you can see how we sort of combined all these images and went there. So just so you guys know, too, the bulk of the minor arcana sort of really does follow a Rider-Waite-Smith tradition. You'll see all throughout the majors, though, it sort of jumps around a little bit. There's a lot of Tarot de Marseille, like the ordering is Tarot de Marseille, where strength is 11 and justice is 8. And even you can even see it here on the magician card, even though he doesn't show one of those older Italian decks where there are more than one person on the magician, just shows, you know, your classic Tarot de Marseille. He does talk about how in some of the older decks you see images that look more like that, and that's 100% right. You really do. So yeah, if you are, you know, Rider-Waite-Smith tradition, like this, you will be able to use this deck. The minor arcana really speaks to a Rider-Waite-Smith tradition. There's just some really cool, like, older tarot references throughout the major arcana, which is fun. And he does go into quite a bit of detail with all the minor arcana too. You see that it's a little bit shorter, but you know, he talks about the meaning of the card and where it came from and everything. Yeah, that is the Book of Fools, as he calls it. He's a great writer too. He's very easy to understand, even though it takes a little bit more of an academic approach, this book, to the tarot. It's still very easy to understand. Okay, on to the cards. This is how I keep my deck. I got these sort of tassel-y guys that I found. It felt very medieval, very Renaissance. I liked that. And this is what the backs of the cards look like. They're very simple. You have your wands, your swords, your cups, and your coins. I like them. They're completely reversible, very simple. I enjoy that. I did edge this deck with sort of like a beige pen, just to, or marker, just to give it a little bit more of that aged effect to match the coloring of the fronts and the backs of the cards. Yeah, it's not black and white. I hope it's not reading that way either. Like I said, they look very black and white when you pull them up online. The size of the cards too, they're definitely a little bit. I'll pull out a Rider-Waite-Smith here for you. There you go. They actually are about the same. It's ever so slightly shorter than the length of the card, but they're quite a bit wider. Can you see that? Maybe like 3/4 of an inch or so wider. It's a nice size card. They feel good in your hand. And the cardstock is decent. I've heard people complaining about the cardstock, how it's thin, but I don't find it to be too thin at all. It's a Llewellyn deck. It's decent. So you do get a couple of extra cards with this deck also. None of them are art cards, but this one is a Celtic Cross explanation. It goes over it a little bit in the book too. Cute to have. And this is the Exquisite Corpse. And it's a cute little spread. The head, the heart, the belly, the groin, the thighs, and the feet. And you got your little fool's hat that he wears throughout the deck up there. All right, and this is your Fool. Your Fool is numbered 0. Death is named in this deck also. He has changed, as you can see there, that's your Fool, the Vagabond. He has changed some of the names of the major arcana. But this guy works, doesn't he? Okay. There's your Magician. And number 2 is called your Pappas. Is that reading well? Look at how beautiful. This one has actually quite a bit going on. He does really tend to keep them little bit more simple looking. I know in, you know, pen and ink images, when there's a lot going on, it can get a little confusing, but I don't think it ever crosses the line with this deck. But you have your Fool in like every single card. How cool is that? And number 3, your Empress. Isn't that great? And number 4, your Emperor. There's your Fool. He's got his donkey ears and looking all foolish. And there's your Emperor. This card, by the way, is actually like right out of the original poem, the illustration that goes with it. I don't think he changed anything with this one. There are a few cards in here that it worked so perfectly for the tarot, you know? Isn't that wild? Here's your Pope. You got some fools up there. And your one fool down there, standing before the Pope. And then number 6 is called Love. Don't they just feel so authentically medieval? Oh, I love this. And it's a really neat deck in that it does, you know, like I said, stick to a Rider-Waite-Smith, but it really goes into its own world. It's its own unique thing. Because of the Fool, because of the connection to the old poem. Number 8 is Justice. Like the Fool is like blindfolding her. How cool is that? And there's your Hermit. I love this Wheel card, the Wheel of Fortune. Like hanging on for dear life. There's a little donkey, little ass up there. It makes me giggle. It's funny, but it's also serious, and it's just a cool theme for a deck, and that's 11 strength. I like that he used, you know, the donkey here too. There's a lot of interesting themes that run through. It's also interesting in his book when he talks about, you know, the part of the poem that is actually associated with it. In a lot of cases, it works with the message of the tarot card, too. Here's 13, Death. And I love the Temperance card. Isn't that beautiful? It's the Fool. Oh, look at this devil. Ready? I'm going to zoom in on him. He's like a bird, creature, goblin thing. Isn't that nuts? Love. Oh, and the Tower. Look up in the corner there. It's like a hand coming out of the sky with a hammer, like knocking down the tower. Isn't that cool? And here's your Star card. Here it's called the Stars. Still got your birds flying. He's really managed to incorporate so much symbolism from the Rider-Waite-Smith and the Tarot de Marseille. This one's really cool too. It, you know, it doesn't actually have all the Marseille and the Rider-Waite-Smith symbolism that we're more accustomed to. He definitely went with, and he talks about it in the book, I'm sure too, you know, one of those older Italian tarot moon style cards where it looks more like an astronomer or an astrologer. They even have this sort of compass thing in some of those old decks. But it's clearly still, you know, it works as a moon card. It so does. And there's your Sun. Look at that Sun. So you have your borders here, but I certainly don't think that they take anything away. It's just a two sort of lines around everything, and then you're writing at the bottom. They feel clean, you know? Oh, look at your World card. That's very reminiscent of some older tarot decks. Beautiful. All right, guys, on to the minor arcana. Here's your Ace of Wands. They are staves in this deck. You have staves, swords, coins, and cups. Look at him riding around. He's foolish, he's silly, but there's lessons to be learned here. It's sort of this wise old deck. It feels like a wise old friend. So enjoy this deck. think it's good for reading sort of about anything, you know? I think it would definitely be a cool deck at a Renaissance fair or something too. But yeah, you know, I love reading, a spiritual reading, a past life reading. It's like, it kind of works with anything and everything. You see how they all really stick to a Rider-Waite-Smith sort of a focus. So, you know, there's quite a few that'll vary sort of drastically from a traditional image, but you know, I think you find that with most decks that even stick to a Rider-Waite-Smith for the most part. You know, they go off and do their own thing on some cards, which is fun. I think it's cool to mix it up and sort of expand. Otherwise, you get bored of looking at the same exact thing over and over and over again. I know I do. That's your 9 of staves, and there's your 10 of staves. Very Rider-Waite-Smith. Aren't they gorgeous? And then for the courts, you have pages, knights, kings, and queens. There's your page. There's your knight. Always riding those donkeys. And there's your queen. So authentic, because they are authentic. Most of these images, they come right out of that medieval poem, the illustrations for it. And you have the fool sort of whispering in his ear. Get ready, this is another one that follows super closely. Let me grab the book. I just grabbed the book real quick. Ready? Look at that's the original image from Narrenschiff. I hope I'm saying that right. Shit. And then there's your Marseille and your Rider-Waite-Smith. And then look at that. It's almost exactly the same. He just added like the suit sign and redrew it and cleaned it up. And how amazingly does that work for your king of staves? It's just such a great friggin' concept. All right, so there is your Ace of Cups. He's like taking a bath. Your 2 of Cups. And your 3 of Cups. Isn't that great? And there's your 4 of Cups. You see that? Similar, right? Oh, there's actually, wait, look up there. Yeah, there's the other hand. It's like dripping rain on him. Oh, this poor fool. I love 5 of Cups. There's your 6 of Cups. Looks a little different, but the meaning sort of gets you there. Or what's going on in the card. 7 of Cups. There's your 8 of Cups. 9. And oh goodness, this is such a fun, silly card. I so enjoy this one. This is the 10 of Cups. It sort of takes the idea of that rejoicing that you see in the Rider-Waite-Smith 10 of Cups and just puts a little silly twist on it. You have all these sort of people down here, all these fools serenading this woman who's a little bit naked, and she's dumping God only knows what. Slops, refuse, whatever, down below. So yeah, there's definitely, you know, a handful of cards that go off on their own direction. You know, it'll take that classic Rider-Waite-Smith meaning and turn it on its head just a little bit. But would you really expect any less from a deck that looks like this? That's your Knight of Cups. And there's your Queen. And there's your King of Cups. So there are, I want to say, what, like 115 original woodcuts that went along with the poem. How cool is that? And he ended up using about 33 of those original woodcuts throughout the tarot deck here. He did come up with 11, I think it was 11, like completely original cards that you see in the deck that are taken where he took bits and pieces and created a wholly unique card. But for the most part, there's added cups and added swords and little tweaks that he made when he redrew the woodcuts. But when you look through the book, you can clearly see exactly what woodcut, for the most part, each card sort of evolved from. How beautiful is that one? Oh, I love this card. Very Rider-Waite-Smith. 6 of Swords. This is a great one too. There's your 7 of Swords. Very classic. And here's your 8 of Swords. So this was one of those that you'll probably have to sit with a little bit. I sort of go with the directionless sort of angle on this. You know, she's on your classic card, right? She's blindfolded and bound, and you can really see here that they are not really doing much on these boats. They're just sort of wandering. Messing around and not getting much done. So yeah, they work for me. And there's your 9 of Swords. Very classic. And your 10 of Swords. Very classic. And then your courts. You have pages, knights, kings, and queens. Here's your page. And your knight, and your queen, and your king. And into our coins. Here's the Ace of Coins. I remember actually in his book he writes, wealth can be a burden as well as a boon. Isn't that good? And there's your very classic 2 of Coins. I love the way he's drawn their faces. They're so clear. They have expressions. Great. Here's your 3 of Coins. This is another one that, it looks sort of familiar, but he's gone a slightly different direction with this 3 of Coins here. It has a little bit more to do with, instead of planning ahead, which can be an aspect of this card, it's sort of what can happen if you don't plan ahead. There's your 4 of Coins. They're sacking it away for later. Here's your 5 of Coins. And your 6 of Coins. That one looks very familiar, right? It's got the scales and all. And so much of this just comes right out of those old images. Isn't it amazing how much they really do have in common? This is one that he's sort of, created. The ones that follow super closely to the Rider-Waite-Smith sort of jump out at you. You can tell that they were, his own creation. And the 9 of Coins. That one works, right? And your 10 of Coins. Look at that bowl up there. Isn't that gorgeous? Fools galore. And then you have your Page of Coins. I love the way he's drawn the animals and the birds. Your Knight of Coins. Your Queen. And lastly, your King. Isn't that great? This is such a really, just a unique, cool friggin' deck. I cherish this baby. Shuffles fantastically. The cards are a wonderful size, like I showed you. Just a great friggin' deck. There's your box. There's your book. The whole thing, it used to retail for about $35 US. I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what I paid for it, but I see it on Amazon all the time. Not sure if you can get it. I think it's only available through third-party sellers right now, but there are lots of these decks out there. It's pretty easy to get your hands on still, and they go for a lot cheaper now. How cool is that? Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye.